Joining us now from Beijing is current affairs commentator Qinduo. What have been the lessons learned since this quake happened 10 years ago? Talk to us about some of the advancements in technology and what's happened with research and disaster management since then.
Good question. Over the past 10 years, if you look at China's early earthquake warning system, it is one of the most advanced now, along with Japan's and Mexico. Those are also two countries, prone to earthquakes and other disasters. So the Chinese government has invested at least like 2 billion yuan in such a system. If you remember, at the end of last year, in actually November, there was another earthquake struck this quite famous tourist region called Qinduo, and the people received alerts 71 seconds ahead of the ahead of the earthquake. So people have this vital minute, basically, to rescue themselves, to make a quick decision, and to cover themselves and escape from damages. So this is a huge advancement, I would say. And also, if you look at any experience and like lessons, in 2008 we have more than 10,000 volunteers from around basically every corner of China. They went to help, but later on they found out that their assistance and help were limited, partly because they are not well equipped, not well trained. So people gradually realized that training after the years to be professional rescuers, that's very important. So you do see year-long training, mostly in Sichuan and the surrounding regions. So that's helped a lot.
And a lot has been done about the way buildings are constructed now. Talk about the changes that the government has made in how some of these structures, I mean, if you go there now, there are a lot of new homes and buildings. It's a lot stronger now, right?
That's true. There are a lot of discussion at that time, like the buildings were not that well built or not that to high standard, let's say. I think that's basically a fact. That's part of the reason, in the international scene, China would call itself like a developing countries. Developing countries actually in the very detailed aspect you can see. For example, in the rural areas, even today, the buildings are, I would say some of them are still not up to the necessary standards to be sturdy enough to resist earthquakes like that magnitude. And so there's a realization, there are works taken after that. There are also investment from the government to make sure buildings, in particular in the rural areas, to meet the necessary standards to prevent any future disasters like this. I think that's also a realization. That's something we learned from the disaster. That's something I think the government has done, and also the society has done a lot to increase the awareness, public awareness, and then do the necessary work.
And on a personal level, we saw all the people that are gathering today to remember all the people that were lost. This is something that affected millions of people, thousands, tens of thousands dead. Talk to us about how the survivors have been able to move on. Many people lost loved ones, even their only children.
Yes, that's true. That's a really hard time for a lot of the survivors, I would say, because mostly they have loved ones, buried in the rubbles or basically simply missing. There's no chance for them to meet their relatives or family members again. So that's the most challenging aspect for people, I would say, in terms of recovery. Materially, it's easier. You have the investment from the government, from regional governments, with their assistance, and also the sympathy, the help from other parts of the country, other parts of the world. But psychologically, emotionally, that's the most challenging part. That's also the effort played by the institutions, public institutions, and also government institutions to help people in terms of psychological comfort, and also the help that's necessary to help them basically to survive that, to weather this crisis. Psychologically, some of them basically relocated to other parts, nearby parts, not far away from the disaster region, in a new township. And also, some of them also built new families with, victims, basically, victims' relatives from that region. And with the support from the public and the government, and I think emotionally people are showing that they are strong enough to weather this crisis. And now they are looking back and think people, in a sense, that people are be able to take a pride that we just came a long time and now we are still alive and life is even better.
All right, Qinduo, thank you so much for joining us from Beijing.